Welcome to Blood Sugar Squad, your go-to channel for simple, actionable tips to manage diabetes and live your best life. Imagine two people. Both have an A1C of exactly 7.0%. By the traditional measure, they are equally well controlled, but one stays mostly between 80 and 140 throughout the day. The other swings from 40 to 250 over and over again. That's the same A1C, but with a completely different reality. Which one do you think is healthier? That question is exactly why more specialists are shifting their focus to something called time in range, which is the measure how often your blood sugar stays in a safe zone, usually 70 to 180. Because when you look beyond the average, a very different picture starts to emerge. Segment 1. Why time in range is important. Let's start with the key question. Does time in range actually predict complications? The answer is yes, and the evidence is strong. In 2019, an international group of diabetes experts published a major consensus report in diabetes care. Looking across multiple studies, they found a clear pattern. The more time you spend in a healthy glucose range, the lower your risk of complications like eye disease, kidney disease, and nerve damage. I will have a link to that study in the description below. And the difference can be significant. Moving from 50% to 70% time in range means about 5 extra hours per day in a healthy zone. Over time, that adds up and is associated with substantially lower risk of complications. The problem is that many people are never told why this number matters. They take an A1C test, told they're doing fine, and that's it. Meanwhile, their day-to-day blood sugar may be all over the place, and no one connects that to real risk. Someone with an A1C of 7.0 might assume they're well controlled. But if their time in range is only 50%, they're spending about half the day outside a safe zone, either too high or too low. That's hours every day where damage can occur. Over time, high blood sugar stresses blood vessels and organs. And large swings, from very high to very low, put additional strain on the body and increase the risk of dangerous lows. A1C alone can't show you any of that. It's just an average. And averages can hide extremes. Two people can have the same A1C, but completely different risk profiles depending on how stable their glucose is throughout the day. That's what time in range captures. It shows how often you're actually in a safe zone, not just where your average lands. More recent real-world studies back this up. People with higher time in range consistently have fewer complications and fewer hospitalizations, even when their A1C looks similar. That's why major organizations like the American Diabetes Association now recommend aiming for at least 70% time in range for many adults with diabetes. Because when it comes to your day-to-day health and your long-term risk, time in range gives you a much clearer picture of what's really going on. Segment 2. Why time in range changes daily life. So the research is clear, but what does time in range actually feel like in daily life? When you focus on A1C alone, you are chasing a number that only shows up every few months. It tells you how you did, not how you are doing right now. Time in range is different. It is a daily, sometimes hourly, metric, and that immediacy changes how you manage your diabetes. Think about the difference between driving by, looking in the rearview mirror, versus looking through the windshield. A1C is the rearview mirror. It shows you where you have been. Time in range is the windshield. It shows you what is happening now and where you are heading. When you can see your numbers in real time, you make better decisions in real time. You notice your blood sugar spikes after breakfast, so you adjust your insulin or your meal. You see a pattern of going low after exercise, so you plan ahead. You start to recognize trends that A1C alone would never reveal. And those small adjustments start to add up. Better time in range means fewer extreme highs and fewer dangerous lows. That often translates into more stable energy, fewer interruptions during the day, and better sleep at night. It also reduces the mental load. A1C can feel like a judgment. 3 months of effort reduced to a single number. If it is good, you feel relief. If it is not, it can feel discouraging. Time in range works differently. It gives you continuous feedback. A small improvement today, just a few more minutes in range, is a win. And those wins build momentum. That kind of feedback matters. People are far more likely to stick with habits when they can see progress quickly. Instead of waiting months, you see the impact of your decisions in hours or days. Finally, time in range encourages a safer, more balanced approach. When people focus only on A1C, some end up running their blood sugar a bit higher than ideal to avoid lows. That can make the average look better, but it comes at a cost. Time in range shifts the goal. It is not about chasing the lowest possible number. It is about staying in a safe, stable zone as often as possible. And that shift from chasing averages to managing real-time stability is what makes time in range so powerful in everyday life. Now, you have heard how shifting your focus from A1C to time in range can reduce stress and improve your outcomes. But numbers alone do not change behavior. What you eat, when you eat it, and how you think about food, that is where real progress happens. That is exactly why we created our free Mindful Eating Guide. It is a practical toolkit to help you build a healthier relationship with food. Just use the QR code on screen or the link in the description below. Segment 3. How to improve your time in range. First, let's talk tools. A CGM makes this much easier, but you can estimate patterns with finger sticks. Think of finger sticks like watching a movie one frame at a time, while a CGM shows you the full picture with trends, patterns, and where things are heading. If you're not using one, it's worth discussing with your doctor. People who use CGMs consistently tend to spend more time in range, largely because they can act on problems sooner. Once you have that data, start simple and don't try to fix everything at once. Pick one problem area and focus on improving it. Maybe it's a post-meal spike. Maybe it's a recurring low. Start there and make one small adjustment until you see a change in the pattern. Now, here are 5 practical ways to improve your time in range. 1. Pre-bolus your meals. Taking rapid-acting insulin before you eat, often 10 to 20 minutes ahead, depending on your plan, can significantly reduce post-meal spikes. Timing matters. 2. Watch high-fat, high-protein meals. Foods like pizza or takeout can hit you twice. Once early and then again hours later. That makes them harder to manage, not easier. Some people do better by splitting a dose or using an extended bolus, depending on their therapy. But even then, these meals often require more attention and can still push you out of range. 3. Use your CGM alerts. These aren't just alarms, they're early warnings. Set them so you have time to act before you go too high or too low. 4. Treat lows with precision. When you drop below 70, use a measured approach like 15 grams of fast carbs, and then recheck. The goal is to recover without overshooting and bouncing high. 5. Check your overnight patterns. A lot happens while you're asleep. If you're consistently high or low overnight, that's often a signal that your background insulin or evening routine may need adjusting, with your doctor's guidance. This is not about perfection. The general target is about 70% time in range, or roughly 17 hours a day. But wherever you are now, the goal is progress. If you're at 50%, aim for 55. If you're at 60, aim for 65. Because small and consistent improvements can have a real impact over time. Segment 4, final thoughts. Let's bring this back to where we started. 2 people with the same A1C can have very different outcomes. A1C cannot tell them apart. Time in range can. That is why time in range matters more than A1C alone. Not because A1C is useless, it is still an important tool, but because it is incomplete. Time in range shows how often you are actually in a safe zone and how often you are not. And that matters, because the more time you spend out of range, especially on the high end, the more stress and damage your body is exposed to over time. If you use a CGM, check your time in range today. If it is below 70%, pick one strategy from this video and try it for a week. Just one. Pre-bolus your meals. Set your alerts. Adjust your overnight insulin. Small changes add up. And if you don't use a CGM yet, talk to your doctor. You can't improve what you don't measure. What are your thoughts about time in range? Comment below, and please share this video with someone who needs it. Until next time, stay strong, stay sweet, but not too sweet, and keep thriving with the Blood Sugar Squad.